Good morning, grade 5-6s. Nice to see you today. So today we're going to continue our theme of bar graphs. So today we're going to make them instead of actually just playing with ones other people made. So the first thing we have to include in a bar graph is a title. This title should be descriptive. What I mean by that is you shouldn't just write something like hats. So if this is a question about, or if this is a graph about people's favorite hats, then you would say people's favorite types of hats. Okay, we have to have a descriptive title. All right. Number two, the axis label. The x-axis label, remember this is your x-axis, the one that goes this direction. So what we want to do is we want to call it something like, let's say, type of hats. Okay? And then our x-axis data points, again, we still have this x-axis, but now we're going to say maybe a cowboy hat, a cap, a baseball hat, etc. So your x-axis is going to have two things. It's going to have your cowboy hat, cap, baseball hat, etc. data, and it's also going to have the label types of hats. Okay? Then the next one is, and I'll change color for this, is your y-axis. Your y-axis is the one that goes this way. Okay, and when it says it wants an axis label, that means we're going to call it something. So in this case, it's going to be number of people if we continue our theme. Okay, number of people. That's your label right there. And then your data points is your skip count pattern. Remember, it always starts with 0 and then it goes up in whatever increments. So let's say we're using a skip count pattern of 5 for this. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, etc. Okay, so all of those things are important. If you are missing any of these, and you can see there's 5 of them, then you're going to lose points, and you have to make some graphs on your work. If you miss any of these, that's a point that's gone. Okay, all right, so let's just do some examples of some graphing. All right, so in this case here we have a graph. 100 children were asked to pick the food that they liked best. Okay, and they were given these choices right here. Now I'm going to tell you right now that one of the things that you guys will be tempted to do, you'll write your little lines along here like this. That's lovely. These lines should be an equal distance apart. So that's the first thing. Oh, wow. I just lost my thing that I didn't want to lose. All right, I'll just draw it in. Okay. I'll just draw it in. All right. So don't draw like this. That's nonsense. Okay? You want to draw these lines about an equal distance apart. So I lost it again. So I'm going to show you. So we're going to draw them about equal distance apart, like that. See that? Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is a lot of you will be tempted to do something like this. 15, 20, 30, 35, because that's these numbers. There's 15, then you got 20, which you put here, then you got 30, which you put here, then you got 35, which you put here. That is also complete nonsense. There is no skip counting pattern here. You go from 0 to 15, which is plus 15, then you go plus 5. Oh, you got plus 15, you got plus 5 again. But we're not talking about that kind of pattern. We're talking about a pattern like you would have in your times table. This is just an unacceptable pattern. You cannot do this, all right? What you have to do is you have to figure out what pattern you're going to use. So I'm going to use the times 5 times table here. So it's going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. See that? Now I have a proper pattern. I don't just write these numbers. So many of you do this. You just take these numbers and you just write them down here. Please don't do that. Okay, so what should we call this axis label? Well, this is number of children. How do I know it's number of children? Because We're talking about children up here. All right, now let's do the bottom axis, okay? This one's easy. We're going to talk about hamburgers, pizza, hot dogs, and fried chicken. And then we also have to give this a data later. So we're going to call this types of food. Okay, these are food, types of food. These are number of children, number of children. Okay, now we can actually make this graph. All right, so how many people like hamburgers? Well, we got 20. So I'm going to make that right there. Draw those lines straight down. I'm going to give that a little color in a bit of a messy way. All right, great. Then we've got pizza. We've got 35 people who like pizza. You see how I have a space between my two things? There's a gap in between here. Depending on what type of graph, you can or cannot leave that out. But if you leave a space between one, you have to leave a space everywhere. I prefer you leave a space unless your book is indicating you do otherwise. All right? Now here's 15. Like that. And then fried chicken, which is 30, and that goes right there. Okay, and that's how simple it is. Okay, now I expect this to line up something intelligent-wise. Now, if I take this line across here, you can see I didn't actually make that one tall enough, so I have to make that tall enough so that it's straight. When you draw this line, don't draw some silly crooked thing that goes down like this. That's nonsense, okay? Draw a nice straight line like you have a ruler. See, this one's nice and straight, that one's nice and straight across, and this one is a little bit short too, so I'll make this a little bit taller so it fits where I'm supposed to be, okay? On this kind of graph, you do not actually need to use different kinds of colors because you only have one variable, all right? And we'll see in the next one what I mean by one variable. But this here, I used red just so it will stand out easily and you can see it, but this is really simple, okay? Now, there's something missing. I have not written a title on this. So the question is, what kind of nice descriptive title can I make this about? Well, it's about children, we know that, and it's about favorite foods. So maybe a good question is, or a good title is, Children's Favorite Foods. Okay, so there's an example of how to make a graph. This is really simple, and then you're going to have to answer questions on this just like you did yesterday. It's going to be the same kinds of questions. There's not going to be anything different about these. So remember your lessons from yesterday. Rewatch yesterday's lecture if you're having trouble with some of the types of questions. Okay. So now I'm just going to go quickly to the grade 5 book. I'm going to talk about it here, okay? So in this right here, you see you have some decimal numbers. Pay attention. What number is right here? What number is right here? Where would you find that decimal number, okay? So for example, this is a 5. This is a 10. So where would we find, for example, 7.5? Okay, be really careful and really precise on that. Okay, number 2, on this graph right here, you need a title, you need axis data, you need axis label. On the Y, you need axis data and axis label. On the X, so you have 5 titles to go before you even start entering information. Then this space in here is supposed to be empty, so I'll show you what I mean. I'm not going to do this actually the way it is, but if you fill in one and it fills like this, you leave that space and you fill in the next one over. Do not use what I'm doing here because these are just examples. They're not correct numbers, okay? You see how I'm leaving a gap in between? That's what I expect you to do in your work. Don't put them on top of each other. Use the lines on the page. They are there for a reason. This isn't a random blah, put things wherever you want. Okay, and then again, answer the questions. And if you are having any trouble answering these questions, you can always watch the video from yesterday or even or call me or call Teacher Elizabeth with any questions you have, okay? All right, so grade 5s, that's pretty much done for you. You can get started on your work. You're working on day 81, I believe. Yeah, 81 grade 5s. All right, so grade 6s, this is for you. Grade 5s, you can watch this if you want, but this is specifically for grade 6s. Okay, so grade 6s, this is what we call a double bar graph, okay? And what you can see is we have two sets of data. You can also see I have decimal sets of data. So we start out doing the same thing as we did in the other one. We give this a title. So when we read what it says here at the top, students were asked to measure how much they watched DSTV versus how much the time they spent on YouTube. So maybe a test would be students watch time of DSTV and YouTube by grade. Now you can see this is a lot longer because we have a lot more to talk about. We have to talk about DSTV, we've got to talk about YouTube, we've got to talk about who's watching, which is the students, and we've got to talk about how we're organizing things, which is by grade. Okay, so this would be hours per week, and we know that because right here it says hours per week, and this down here is going to be grade, whoops, wrong marker. This is going to be grade level. So here we've got grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now the question is how do we do our increments on this side of things? Because this is trickier. Now we've got a decimal number. What's the best way to organize everything? Okay, and the way we figure that out is we look at our data range. Okay, so our smallest number in all of this data set is 2.1, and our biggest number in this entire data set is 6.3. Okay, that's our data set. So that means our top number here has to be slightly bigger than 6.3. So now we have to think about how we do it. If we go by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we could do that, but it probably makes more sense to go by 0.5. So 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, okay? But I'm not actually gonna write in every number because that takes up so much space and that isn't very fun. So I'm just gonna skip 1 every time. And I'm gonna extend my graph here just a little bit because I don't want to, I want to use this increment and I draw my lines badly. Okay, so there we go. So now we can do these increments, okay? And we know that each of these little ones in here is a 0.5. So 0.5, 1.5, 2.5, etc. But we're not going to write them out because it makes our graph look like it has too much data and we go crazy because we've got too much stuff going on. Okay, so because we have two different data sets on this, we actually need to differentiate. So we're going to make red DSTV and we're going to make green YouTube. Okay? This is a really important differentiation. Now, if you don't have colors, you can do something else instead. You could make DSTV solid color and you could make YouTube stripes. See that? So you can still do it even if you don't have different colors, but I'm going to do different colors because it's nicer. All right. So DSTV for 3-year-olds is going to be 5.2 that for grade 3. So that's right about there. For grade 4, it's 6.3, which is right up here-ish. And I'm going to end up in my title. So I'm not going to fix it right. Yeah, I am going to fix it. I'm going to erase it for now. You guys saw the title, so you need to, so just pretend the title is still on there, okay? But we needed to make that space. Okay, so grade 5, we're going to go 5.9, which is right around there. Grade 6, we're going to go 4.2, which is right around there. I do expect you to be as precise as possible on this. So don't spend too much time guessing on this. If you have a straight edge, pull out a straight edge. By straight edge, I mean a ruler, but you can also use the edge of a piece of paper, for example. That would give you a nice straight edge. Okay, and there's 3.6 for grade 8. Now I'm going to change color, and I'm going to go to this green, and now I'm going to go 2.1, which is right here. You see how those two are touching because they're both about grade 3? Then for grade 4, I'm going to go 2.5, which is right there. Grade 5, I'm going to go 2.3, which is down a little bit again, but a little more than the other one. Grade 6, I'm going to go 4.5, which is up here. There we go. Grade 7, I'm going to go 4.8, which is there-ish. And then grade 8, I'm going to go 5.2, which is there-ish. Okay. So, do you see how I have a space in between my two sets of data? I don't put them right side by side, but I do put the ones that belong together. This kind of data gives so much information. So for example, I can see that as students get older, they tend to watch more YouTube. See that? And I can also see that as students get younger, they tend to watch less DSTV. See that trend? Okay. I can also tell from here who watches the most TV, but I'm going to have to do some addition and subtraction. All right. So that's basically where we're at on this. Let me just look at your workbook with you very quickly, and then you can get started on day 82, grade 6s. Okay, so the first thing here is you've got 5 pieces of missing data. You've got your title, you've got your axis label, and your axis data. You've got your axis label and your axis data. Make sure you include all of them and then answer the information. Now, this one's a little bit tricky. They want you to round, okay? And they're telling you to round to the nearest 100. So I'll do the first one for you. This would be 1200. Now, what they want you to do when you enter this information on is they want you to use your rounded number, not your whole number. So 1200, that's what that is, 1200. I don't know if that's the right place. Don't use that. That's just an example, okay? That might be where 1200 is. It might not be, okay? And as you can see, this is a horizontal bar graph, not a vertical bar graph. All right, so that's the key thing. So make sure once you round, that number doesn't matter anymore. So you round and then doesn't matter. Round doesn't matter. Round doesn't matter. Round doesn't matter. Every single one of them, you are using this number, the number in this box, down on your graph. Okay, this one right here, you can see you're making a double bar graph. You have data here, boy and girl. So just like I showed you, make a key for it. So maybe one is stripes and one is dots. Maybe you have 2 different colors and you make it in 2 different colors. That's fine, okay? Use a straight edge, make it really nicely. In this case, the only data points you're missing is your title and your axis labels here. They've given you these ones, check. They've given you that one, check. They've given you that one, check. But you are missing 2 data points. And then answer your questions. All right, good luck with the work and let me know if you have any questions.